Where to Hunt podcast. It's okay.
Hi, I'm Dan Small, host of Outdoor Wisconsin, and I listen to Where to Hunt.
Nah, it's okay.
I'm Kurt Geyer with Working Class Bow Hunter. I listen to Where to Hunt podcast, and it's decent.
It's all right.
Hey, this is Bud Fisher with Catching Deers, and I think the Where to Hunt podcast is all right.
Howdy, everybody. This is Eric. And where
Howdy,
you at?
Eric.
There you are. Who the fuck are you?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Well, Eric and Greg here for another week. You're listening to the Where to Hunt podcast, the podcast that connects public land hunting enthusiasts, aka the okayest podcast in the Midwest. Be prepared to be underwhelmed, per usual. This is episode, I don't remember, 140 something. Today's July 21st. We're rolling into August here pretty quick, folks. And we're happy to be here. This is also the okayest hunter podcast studio. I don't know. Do people realize that that's like a thing? okayesthunter.com.
I think they do.
If you want to
I truly
check,
believe that they do.
I'm wearing their hat right now. It's the antler hat. So it's, if you want to save some money on their stuff, enter in code Where to Hunt podcast. Sorry, W2H podcast. Holy shit. And you'll get 10% off. And their proceeds go to 2% for conservation. So that's kind of neat, I think.
It is cool. You're setting the bar high already, so I should be able to screw up my part of the ads here.
I'm not with it today. I'm just seriously not with it today. It's like a problem. Greg, how are you, man? How was your weekend?
It was busy. I played lumberjack. I cut down on a big dead ash tree that the emerald ash borer tore up in my backyard, killed it. So it had to come down before it landed on the house. So that's what I did.
Wow. Pretty freaking hot
Sounds
outside
like
to
you
be
had a
doing
lot
that.
more fun than me.
I went camping with my...
That built character.
Yeah. Well, you know what else builds characters? Camping with your 2-year-old and your 1-year-old. And I've never done that before. That was a first. Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. It was good to get some fresh air. It was hot. It was real hot. We had to pack it up early for my little guy. Babies don't do well in the heat.
No.
Saturday was a hot one. But yeah, that was it. I mean, it was a fun weekend. We're back at it. Today's Tuesday, and yeah, we're ready to go. I know you did some prep with your bow. Looks like you got your HHA sight, your Tetra on there, and a new release.
Yep, I got
not release, but a drop.
The new Tetra sights on there, and the Virtus drop away rest is on. I'm plunking bullseyes at 20 yards, no problem. No complaints. Great stuff. Installs nice and easy. Helps when you take measurements off your old stuff when it works. I will throw that little tidbit out there. Use a tape measure. It'll get you nice and close.
That's good. We'll have to chat about that because I got to set my stuff up. But let's roll into some sponsor callouts. We'll do some quick ones here.
Whether you're at work, in a tree stand, or simply waking up, it's important to be alert, and there's no better way to get there than with Backwoods Grind Coffee. Ground fresh for every order, delivered straight to your door. Backwoods Grind Coffee. Take a look at your feet. Are you wearing Gumleaf USA boots? If you said no, you gotta reevaluate some things. Each pair is handmade and tested to take over 1 million flexes. These boots will take just about anything you can throw at them. Use promo code W2H2020 for 10% off your final purchase at gumleafusa.com.
So, I still don't have the code in that commercial for Backwoods Grind, but it's W2H Podcast. If you want to go to backwoodsgrind.com, plunk that in there and save some money on a sampler pack or a whole bag or whatever you got. It's good stuff. super good. I got a lot of compliments on it
Right.
over the weekend for some of the folks that were camping with us, some family members, and they're like, holy shit, that's good. And they were right. I made it in a percolator over a campfire. It was as authentic as it could get. It was delicious.
Sounds like it.
Heck yeah. You got one to do? I'll let you do yours. Mine are easy. I just got to push
Yeah,
a
I
button.
do. All right. So if you're looking for a set of arrows custom built to your spec, look no further than Vector Custom Shop. Head on over to vectorcustomshop.com and check out what they've got to offer. You can order a 2-pack. It's a test pack with built however you want it. You can order 2 different spines, 2 different weights, however you want to do it. Just email them your specs, and they'll build what you want. And once you figure out what you need with the test pack, then you can order a half dozen or a dozen, weighted however you want. And when you do that, and you go to checkout, enter code WHERE2HUNT, and that will save you 10% off anything on vectorcustomshop.com.
Booyah. You didn't mess that
simple.
up at all. I think that was beautiful. Yeah.
Why, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, good job. And we do have a caller on the line with us. Our guest for the day today.
Who do we have?
Sarah Ann, the outdoor medic. Sarah, you've been a listener to the podcast for a little while. I think you've called into the show before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I have.
Well, welcome to the show officially
You
as a
managed to
guest.
Suffer through.
Why did you listen to
thank you
our?
for having me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you listened to our shenanigans.
I got to learn something.
I suppose. Wow, I guess we can teach
What
something too.
not to
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth, Greg. Holy cow.
Well, you guys are about like I am. I'm not anything spectacular, so I guess I fit in.
That's good. That's what we like to hear. Yeah, we are definitely nothing spectacular at all. My wife's like,
You
people listen to you.
You can't sell yourself short, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I'm not selling myself short. I'm being honest.
She's selling us short, Greg. Come on.
Practice makes perfect. You get better with every episode, no matter how stupid you sound.
Well,
Yep, that's true.
welcome to the show. Let's have you just tell the audience and us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? All that good stuff.
Well, I am Sarah Ann, the outdoor medic. I am from Iowa, Northeast Iowa, and I actually host my own podcast, The Outdoor Medic. I talk about mental health and how the outdoors helps heal. And I also do have some hunting shenanigans on there as well. You can find me on Facebook, The Outdoor Medic, or on Instagram, The Outdoor Medic.
Nice. Nice.
Cool.
So that's a pretty sweet name you scooped up there. Surprised I wasn't taken already. What do you like to hunt?
I am too, actually.
What are you chasing?
Um,
What's your like, your thing?
Well, obviously here we're kind of limited. I do hunt deer with my bow, and then I turkey hunt as well. I try that with my bow. I haven't been successful yet, but I've been doing that for about 5-6 years. So eventually I'll have to connect with one.
It's hard. I was a pretty late
just
bloomer with that myself. So once it happens, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And I have also not recovered a buck with my bow. I have shot one. I shot one actually the night Trump got elected, and I hunt next to a ravine, and I never found it. I went out the next morning and looked for him, but I never found him.
Darn.
And it was a 5-yard shot, dead center. I know I hit him good, but I never found him.
That son of a bitch. That happened to my dad, and they found it. My cousin found it later, shed hunting, and they stumbled upon it, and it was like right under my dad's nose the whole time. So he recovered it, and oddly enough, like the varmint didn't get to it and chop up all the antlers, so he ended up getting it mounted, but it was never registered. It would have been a big deer.
And there's, like I said, there's a ravine behind me that leads down to a river, and I'm assuming that's exactly where he went. And it's like a bluff, so it's very hard to get down to. So.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. So
Yep.
tell us a little bit about like your professional. Well, I guess hold on. I'm jumping the gun. What are your plans for this season? What are you doing to prep for it right now? And what are you like? Any goals or anything like that, or things you're trying new this year?
I'm hopefully, well, with the whole coronavirus, everything's kind of been at a standstill. But hopefully I'm going back out to Jersey. I went out to Jersey last year in October. I had no luck. I didn't even see a bear. I went to the highest populated county of bears in New Jersey, and the only bear I saw was the one that my buddy tagged. And everybody kept saying, "Oh, you'll see a bear, you'll see a bear." Like restaurant owners, gas station owners, everybody said, "I'll see a bear." And I did not see a single bear alive during my whole trip. But I'm hopefully getting back out there in the fall, and then obviously deer hunting here in Iowa.
Rock on. That's right. I think I remember you calling in to tell us about some bear hunt stuff.
Yep, that was me.
Mm-hmm. Do you bait or put out trail cams for those things, or how are you trying to get on them?
I hunt over bait. Somebody takes care of all of that for me. Basically, I just go out and they take me around because we don't have bears around here, so I'm not familiar at all with them. And they do all the prep work for me. I just go out, and it's all private land because New Jersey does not allow public land hunting for bears because of an executive order signed by the governor a couple years ago. And so we just go out, and if a bear shows up, They have trail cams out. They have bears all over out there. They weren't cooperating with me.
Those bastards. And then you're going to shoot it with the bow, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's cool.
And actually flying with the bow is what I had called in about because I was concerned about that. And it's actually easy to fly with a bow. It's just like an extended piece of luggage. You just check it and then you pick it up at the checked luggage. So
that's pretty straightforward. Wow, interesting. Do you get any weird looks like traveling with your bow? Like initially kind of just getting into the airport and the general area?
Well, I flew out of Dubuque, which is a really tiny airport. And actually they made me miss my flight because they were like, "We don't know what to do with this, blah, blah, blah." It was just a mess. And then they were really good about getting me on another flight out later on in the day after they had decided this is archery equipment. This is okay. And then they told me how to fly with it. So I checked it. And then after that, yeah, I got a bunch of weird looks when I landed in Newark. But other than that, around here, it wasn't anything special. And I was pretty straightforward. I'm like, this is a bow, and everybody was like cool with it. So
that's cool. Makes sense. I've never flown with a bow though. I wouldn't know much about that at all. So it's kind of interesting to think about because I'm assuming some people do it quite frequently, at some level.
Yeah, I have a really nice SKB case, I think is what it's called, and you can lock it. But I put my bow in there, and then I packed my hunting clothes around it so it was extra padded. And then I had to put my broadheads in with my checked luggage for like my clothing suitcase. And I had foam around them, and I just put them in a little Tupperware container, and I packed them away. And the only thing I had trouble with was I had packed an aerosol can in my carry-on, and I had to put that in my checked bag before I could go because I couldn't take that on the plane.
Yeah.
Sure. They'll confiscate anything aerosol.
Yep.
Interesting. There's not many people traveling right now. That industry is hurting pretty bad, but interesting. I'm curious to know, Doug Glimmerveen says, hey, what's up, Doug? Feel free to call in. We'll open up the phone lines in like 15 minutes at 7:30, just as a heads up. But I'm interested in also like your professional career and how you've blended these two worlds together, how you're the outdoor medic, but tell us what you do by day as much as you can anyways, and kind of how that all started for you and what you're doing with that.
Well, I am a critical care paramedic at a local hospital, which means that I have a special certification to deal with the most critical patients in transport. I eventually will hopefully get my flight medic certification. You have to take all these tests to get these certifications, so it is a lot of work. And then every 2 years I have to recert, and when I recert I have to take classes and obviously get re-educated on some of the things that have changed in the last 2 years. But I work in the hospital, so I work in the ER, and then when there are 911 calls, I respond to those in the ambulance, or if there's a transfer from the hospital to another hospital, then I respond and take those calls as well. And then when I'm at home, I'm on my volunteer service for my local town, so I'm on call basically all the time. and a little bit about what I do. I can manage anything from trauma to any kind of medical calls. We get a lot of medical calls in our area. Traumas are something that I'm not very comfortable with, but I'm trained to deal with them. So I do my best, and everything that we're taught is we're to revert back to basics. If it's something that we don't know how to manage, we just revert back to our airway breathing and our circulation, and then we go from there. And a lot of things can be managed with just basic stuff. So I don't get to use all my fancy skills all the time.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
What made you decide to get into doing that?
Actually, I was working retail, and I wanted to help somebody because my boss was an alcoholic, and you learn when you want to help people that you can only help people that want to help themselves. So I was drawn to helping people, and I got my CNA, and I worked in a nursing home for a while, and then I went to the hospital. And then when you work in a hospital, you have to put in so many skilled hours, and the hospital that I was working for wanted to grow their ambulance service, so I got my EMT license. And from there, I decided that I really enjoyed being in the back of an ambulance, so I wanted to get my medic because my town has 3 medics, and they are a little bit older, and I'm, kind of young. So I wanted to help out my community as much as I could. So my town actually put me through medic school, and I had signed a contract. So I'm on service with them basically for life because I don't plan on moving. But I'm there to help, and I really enjoyed that. And then an opportunity came for me to get my critical care certification, and I jumped right on that because you need that extra critical care stuff to go get your flight medic. And that's actually my end goal for EMS side, and then eventually I would like to get my physician's assistant.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to deviate, but it's not my fault, as normally it would be. But one of the folks watching had said that in your profile you mention you're a seasoned coon hunter, and you said not many people talk about that. Is there anything special going on there?
Actually, tell you the truth, I did start coon hunting. When I started hunting, that was the thing that I was going to hunt. I was never going to hunt deer. I was never going to hunt turkey or bear. I'm an adult onset hunter, and I actually just love the dogs working, and that's kind of where I started hunting. And we actually lost our 2 dogs that we did use for coon hunting, and I haven't been coon hunting for years. 3 kids, and they're all busy, and it's hard to get out. When they're a little bit older, I plan on trying to get back out into it because it really is. It's gorgeous out in the woods and at night, and then the dogs running, and you get to see big bucks bedded down. Like it's amazing.
It's like a different
it really
world.
is amazing, and it's probably one of the most underrated things to hunt because the coon hide prices are shit. I mean, they've been shit for years. So.
When's the last time you did that?
Last time.
Sorry, Greg.
What?
Go ahead, Greg. You go
Go
first. No. You go.
Yeah, I think it was early 2000s was the last time I trapped coons and actually took them to market. I had a buddy that would help me scrape them, and he was really good at it. He trapped quite a bit, and he kind of taught me some stuff. But I think the most we got for a coon, I got one that was pretty large and so big it couldn't turn around in the live trap. I got $75 for it, and that was like early 2000s. And
yeah, I was gonna say the most we've ever gotten for one, I think, was like $20.
Yeah, the market really tanked. There's just not a good strong market for fur, unfortunately.
Nope.
Well, Kent, you said you had a couple dogs. You don't have any more. What kind of dogs were you using?
We actually had a blue tick, and then we used him for the tracking and the treeing, and then I had a mountain cur, and they were a great team. She was our kill dog. She kept me safe. Like I literally was not afraid of anything in the woods with her by my side.
That's pretty cool. And that was down in Iowa where you're doing most of that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's pretty neat. How fun. I've heard people doing a lot of coyote hunting at night, or coyote. I think that's a big debate, coyote versus coyote. Greg, what do you call them?
devil dog, song dog, yote,
So you
How
just
does that
easy
come?
mutt.
piece of shit. I'm just
If
kidding.
you ever shoot one, they stink. Yeah, they stink. I mean, they're cool to see. You know, it's cool to see everything in nature, right? But
Yeah.
when you got chickens around and they happen to raise hell with your chickens, that's kind of a problem. So they get shot. You know, I've taken a few of them with my bow already. They smell awful. They usually get buried, and they're usually so mangy when I do shoot them. So both of them I shot were early in the season. They weren't when their pelts were prime.
Yuck. All right, so that was a deviation. My bad. Good question though.
That's okay.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate you asking that. We were talking about like kind of how and why you got into the medical field. My thought process. I learned some of this stuff. Like how to do a tourniquet and. If someone's injured, like I forget I don't remember much at all. I would be terrible to like get injured around, but it's like, check the breathing, stop the bleeding, or just stop the bleeding, check the breathing. I can't remember the order of operations, but I remember the things like that you're supposed to do. I just don't know in what order.
Okay, so my disclaimer, these are all my personal opinions.
Good.
So if anybody dies, it's not my fault.
Yep.
So basically what you want to do in like any kind of situation, the first thing you want to do is remain calm. A lot of people forget that and they start freaking out. You can't do it. You can't help anybody if you're not okay. Like you have to be okay mentally. You have to like take some nice deep breaths. That's what I tell a lot of my drivers when they're ready to run with lights and sirens. Take a nice deep breath. Just relax because it is not your emergency. It is their emergency. So the first thing you want to do, ABCs is what we're taught. Obviously, you want to control bleeding, but you want to make sure their airway's open and they're breathing adequately. So, like if it's an injury to their face, you want to first make sure that they're breathing and that their airway is open, like they're not choking on anything. They're not like having blood drip down their throat or anything. So those are important. But a lot of people are not going to have injuries to their face unless they fall out of a tree stand, which if you're using a harness, then you should be okay. I have hauled tree stand injuries before, and they are horrible. Like, they're so preventable, and it's terrible to have to listen to them say, I don't know if I'll be able to hunt again. That's just something that you have to think about, too. So I always carry a tourniquet. I know people, they go out and they buy the cheap first aid kits from, like, Walmart or wherever they get their first aid kit that comes with, like, 3 Band-Aids. If you're going to have an accident in the woods, chances are those 3 Band-Aids, you might as well throw them out in the wind because that's about how much they're going to help you. I carry a tourniquet in my backpack. I carry a tourniquet in my purse, and I carry 2 tourniquets in my hunting pack because if an injury to like a leg happens and you're bleeding out fast, you may need to apply 2 tourniquets. And that's also something that you should practice with. And if you're not comfortable, I know, like, around my area, I have no problem if somebody's like, hey, how do you use a tourniquet? Like, I have practice tourniquet. I can show you. Like, I can demonstrate it. I have no problem teaching people how to use stuff. There's also classes that are offered, I think, nationwide called Stop the Bleed classes, and they teach tourniquet usage as well.
Interesting. And just to, define what a tourniquet is, that's like, I picture in my mind like some sort of cloth and stick that you can twist to apply pressure. Is that what I'm thinking of, or?
There's actual tourniquets. I recommend everybody purchasing like a cat tourniquet. They have the twist that you're talking about. And when you apply a tourniquet, you only want to twist until the bleeding stops. You don't need to twist it super hard. You just twist until the bleeding stops. But obviously the first line of defense against bleeding is just direct pressure. Put a hand over top of whatever's bleeding. And there's different kinds of bleeding. There's like oozing of like, capillary, like just like if you cut your finger, there's like oozing of the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like venous blood, which is darker and it flows, but it doesn't spurt. Now, if you have spurting blood, that's an arterial bleed. And those are the most damaging ones because those will bleed out quickly. venous blood is returning to the heart, so it's not under as much pressure. Arterial blood, which is the spurting blood, is directly coming from the heart, so there's a lot of pressure with that. So those injuries will bleed out a lot faster.
Got it. And so, like, if you have a laceration on your calf, on your leg, the calf muscle, you're going to apply that tourniquet above that to stop that bleeding, right?
Yes, you want to go at least 2 inches above the joint. So if it's on your calf, you'd want to go above your knee about 2 inches. If it's in like your quad area, you just want to go like 2 inches above it. And I know a lot of people want to apply a tourniquet first, but you want to try to just control the bleeding with gauze. Like you can go to any store and you can buy rolled gauze, and I would carry at least 1 or 2 of them in your pack. I also carry some bleeding control dressing, which has like a quick clot in it, and it's a gauze that's like 4 feet long with this quick clot in for like puncture wounds. So if you were to like get punctured with a stick, you can put that in there. And just note like times that you do this, because as a paramedic, I cannot put quick clot in there, but as a hunter, I can. Like that's where I have to draw the line too. And then I also carry an emergency bandage. I know some people call them Israeli bandages. They're similar to a tourniquet, but they have like a pad, and these actually work for children a lot better. So I always carry one of them just in case, because kids it's hard to apply a tourniquet to a child because their limbs are so small.
Right. That's interesting. So you check the breathing, you try to stop the bleeding or control the bleeding. So first you're assessing, you said ABC, so you remain calm, deep breaths, take a chill pill for a second, get your bearings about you.
And it's also important to keep the person calm that the injury happened to, because I know some people, the second they see a little bit of blood, they're freaking out, and you look at it and it's just a tiny cut, I mean, and accidents do happen like anything else. So, I mean, it's important to remain calm and to try to keep the person as calm as possible, because if they're calm, then they're also going to be able to use their brain. Because the first thing that goes out the window when somebody isn't calm is cognitive ability. I mean, I've seen people trying to dial 911 who can't even punch in 3 numbers because they're so freaked out about what's going on.
Yep. Everyone does respond different. The calm factor, like I think of the saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Like you want to be able to go through these steps smoothly, so you're not skipping them or forgetting something.
And that's part of where I'm trained to be the calm in the storm. Like the analogy that was used a lot in my paramedic class was actually like a duck on the water. When you watch the duck on the water, the duck is smooth and he's just chill, and under the water those feet are pedaling like crazy. So that's like what I try to bring into a room when I get to the room or when I get to the scene. I try to be that calm, like that person that's just looking and observing, and then my brain is thinking this is what I need to do, because that just right there can help turn a situation from chaotic to just smooth. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe because it's just how I work. But I mean, to the layperson, they see me walk in and they're like, why aren't you freaking out? And it's like, it doesn't do me any good to freak out,
No, absolutely not. Right?
Nope, you can't concentrate and do the job that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's not my emergency. It is their emergency. I am just there to use my skills and my tools to assist them until we get them to the ER.
And so ABC, is that airway, breathing, and circulation, or does that mean something different?
Nope, that means airway, breathing, circulation. Sometimes it means caffeine for me because, I need some caffeine to stay awake.
That's funny. So then what's the next action there? Like, and there's a website I was looking at, and there's like some general rules of thumb when I was looking at backcountry safety, like things to bring with, like you're talking about like having a tourniquet or 2 and some gauze and some things like that. I think the Walmart first aid kit probably is garbage. So it's good to hear like, oh, these are the things I should bring with me.
I bring some of that stuff like in my purse because I have kids, so the kids want Band-Aids and stuff like that. So I carry a basic first aid kit that I bought from Walmart, but I did purchase, I have cat tourniquets that I've purchased, and the quick clot bleeding control dressing, I've purchased that. and then I have the Israeli bandage, which I have also purchased. I also carry trauma shears, pulse ox, pupil flashlight, my algorithms for like children, like different types of
Like
things that I
dosages.
would go through for a child. I mean, because I go to ball games and I go to a lot of places with my bag, so I carry extra stuff that I probably don't need to carry hunting, but I just carry it in a pack and I just throw the pack in with my backpack.
Yeah. You're definitely more prepared than most. I would say, gosh, you said you felt really safe with your dog in the woods. I'd feel really safe with you in the woods. I'd be like, I'm invincible. She will heal me and I'll be fine. Holy cow. There was one instance I remember being in the North
Yeah.
Woods, and I, when I was quite a bit younger, and whatever, I stepped on a log, but like not like perpendicular. It was like parallel-ish, but it was wet and snowy, and I stepped on it, and I like instantly regretted and knew exactly what was about to happen. It was feet above the face, up in the air, boom, right down on the logs I went, but I was stuck. Like my tree stand was on my back. And Greg, you know what I'm talking about, this big Cadillac tree stand. And I like couldn't get up, and my gun came down on me and everything. Like it was like, I could have been in much worse shape. Look, my pride would have been hurt if someone was watching, but I just wiggled my way out of it and got up. But I could have clunked my head, my gun, like heaven forbid that could have gone off or bashed me in the face, or who knows? I mean, it can happen in a split second.
To like another point. That brings me to another point. Always tell at least somebody where you're going. Like you have the app, you can drop your pins or whatever, but at least tell somebody where you're going, so that way. And like I know, guys, I see this meme all the time. The lady's like, "Well, when are you coming back?" And I'm like, "Is it dark yet or whatever?" Well, at least have like, if I'm not back by this time, maybe send somebody to check on me, type thing. Just because something like that could happen. You could have a stroke. You could have a cardiac incident. I mean, you could get hypothermic, you could have a heat exhaustion. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, and nobody's going to notice you until, it's way too late.
Yeah, what I'm seeing in this article or whatever this is, one of the things is like, if you can prevent going alone, like don't go solo and or tell someone where you are, whether that's someone that's with you or not. I think it's a pretty big deal.
And then also, like, if you are hunting with a friend and you do have like a medical condition, like you have diabetes, or you have an allergy to like bee stings, or if you do have like a pacemaker, if you have some kind of cardiac thing, if you carry like an EpiPen, or if you carry glucose, or if you carry anything, tell them where that's at in case you become incapacitated and you can't find it. I mean, because I know people that are allergic to bees and they carry an EpiPen, but let's say that's in their pack and their throat's closing off and they're fighting to breathe, and you have to be in charge of like finding that and giving the shot. And then also ask them to go through it and run through how to do these things, because a lot of people don't know how to give an EpiPen even though it's an auto injector.
Yep. Yeah, we have one for our one, well, going to be 1-year-old. I'm terrified to ever have to use the damn thing. Usually just have Benadryl on standby
and
first.
The best thing you can do is practice. I mean, if you're going to be taking them into the woods, I mean, you have to know how to use these things, because you have to be proficient with an emergency. I mean, it's got to be muscle memory.
Yeah, that's valid. Were you going to say something, Greg?
I was just going to say, make sure you don't hide your EpiPen on me when I got to stick you with it, okay?
It's not my EpiPen, but some of the things like you mentioned, like if it's heat exhaustion or maybe you get really cold and get hypothermic, there could be allergic reactions to things in the woods. A lot of plants, or there's some poison ones.
If you have a stroke, even. I mean, I know people that are young that have had strokes because, anybody can develop a clot somewhere and it could go to your brain and you could stroke out, and then, or have a hypoglycemic incident if you're out there all day and you're not eating properly. I mean, there's a lot of people that have these cool little monitors on their phones and the little chip in their arm, but what if they get too low and they're not paying attention? They're watching this big buck coming in, and all of a sudden they shoot the buck, and then they go after it a half hour later, and then they're confused because they haven't eaten yet. They're so excited.
Have you encountered any of these types of things in the field, like a field, I should say, not in the field, but like,
Well, at my previous employment, I did haul a couple of people that have fallen out of tree stands, but I have taken people who have fallen out of trees, and it is not fun. Usually they fall in the most god-awful place to get to, and I work in an ambulance. I'm not trained to go get people in the field, and then me having to take all of my stuff that I need to get to the person to try to figure out what's going on. I mean, that provides a problem. Thank God we have wonderful officers, police officers, and fire that we work side by side with on a lot of these incidents, and actually DNR officers if we have to go out on a river or anything. These people are wonderful. They are so good about getting us where we have to go because they know what our job is. Our job is to help these people, and their job is to get us to these people. So
yeah, I have to imagine they're pretty motivated to get you there. I mean, they don't have the slightest clue how to do what you do, just as you wouldn't theirs. You know, you wouldn't. Like I wouldn't know any of the police scanner codes that they're throwing around over air, or even what channel to tune into. They wouldn't have a clue, you know, in some cases. I guess maybe officers and firefighters might be a little bit different than like someone in the DNR. I'm assuming they have some basic training around that stuff, considering their role. But
actually, tell you the truth, I have done a lot of training. I did a 3-day weekend training, an active shooter training with some officers, some DNR officers, and some fire departments. And those guys are just as qualified as any officer I know. And a lot of the officers that I know have at least EMT level training. So they do kind of understand a little bit of basic first aid. So, I mean, a DNR officer, I would put up with any kind of other officer as well.
Yeah. It's at a certain level. They can't go much deeper than that if it's too bad, right? And if they haven't experienced that stuff before, like you do on a regular basis, that experience, you know, that's something that you can't train for, is right, being through it and having done some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. I mean,
and then I also recommend everybody learn how to do CPR. I mean, just basic. There's family CPR class, friends and family CPR classes that are offered, or else get certified. Basically know how to do compressions. That's the biggest thing, because compressions, keeping the brain perfused, is probably the most important thing. Like I carry something that I could do mouth to mouth with, but they actually recommend just doing compression only CPR in the field now, because it's better for the perfusion versus whatever oxygen you're blowing into somebody's mouth.
So compressions over like the mouth to mouth, like, is it?
Yeah, they just recommend just doing compressions, and it's good to know how to do compressions and how hard to push and where to push. A lot of people do compressions incorrectly. Like a lot of lay people do compressions incorrectly, and they think they're actually helping when they're not really doing anything. So I do recommend going somewhere and learning how to do actual CPR and first aid.
I just had to do it for work, so I'm one of the few people at work that got certified with CPR, where they had Red Cross come in and go through that with us, and they actually had the whole dummy laid out, and like you had to press on it. If you didn't press it hard enough, the dummy wouldn't light up. So I kind of learned how to do compressions, and they also recommended like this air mask, so you're not going directly to someone's mouth. It actually was a mask that covers the nose and mouth, and you're able to breathe air into them with it.
Mm-hmm.
How many compressions is it?
And these are all.
It's like a range. Like,
you
is it
want
like
to do 100 to 120 a minute, and a lot of people, that it seems really intense to a lot of people, because a lot of people don't understand, you know, the whole concept. But when you push, you want to push hard and fast. It doesn't sound like it's that complicated, but it can be very intimidating to actually start CPR on somebody if you've never started CPR on an actual person before. In my field of work, obviously, I've had to start compressions on somebody, and it's rough. Like, it's very hard to do good compressions for a very long time. Most people, like, we have to switch out every 2 minutes. That's what you're trained to do. You're trained to do 5 rounds of 20 to 30, and I usually can only go like a minute to a minute and a half of good compressions before I'm tired, because it's hard.
Someone just commented, no mouth to mouth with COVID flying around. It's a good point, actually, right? I mean, really, if you think about it.
Well, I mean, it's life over limb, so I guess it is what it is.
It's true. But I was like, oh man, I didn't even consider that.
But...
I keep forgetting about it from time to time. Like, oh, that's right, it's a thing. I just think that the tree stand safety is probably pretty important. There's a lot of preventative things you can do as a hunter, to avoid an injury like that. I think that's, at least I used to look at the DNR injury reports. I still do from time to time. And one of the most common injuries was falling out of a tree, and they can be fatal, but oftentimes it's just enough to, decapacitate you. Is that the right word? Incapacitate?
Yes.
What the hell?
And
my words are not good tonight.
Basically, so if somebody were to fall out of the tree stand with you, the most important thing you want to do is you want to keep them warm, and you want to make sure that they're alert. If they're not alert, then you need to go get help. If you're in a place where there's not cell service, then you need to leave them to go get the help and remember how to get back to the tree stand. But yeah, just keeping them warm, keeping them calm. Those are like big things that you can do. And like if they're able to like walk out, if they have like a broken arm or if a broken leg, you can splint them with like articles of clothing and sticks if you can find something that's sturdy enough. Like you can make things work if you have to, but if they're on the ground and they can't feel like legs or arms, then you just need to leave them there, because they probably do have a back or spinal injury, and moving them can make that worse.
Okay.
Yep.
This could be an interesting exercise.
Unless
go ahead.
Unless they're in like a place where, like if they're in a creek and they're like having water go over their face or something, then moving them obviously would be more important, life over limb type thing. You'd want to move them just a little ways to get them to a safe spot.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's so I couldn't help myself. I just Googled the DNR's hunting incident report, and it'd be interesting to I might just pick one of these and see like what would you do with this situation. Some of these are not great. Like 24-year-old male, middle and index finger of right hand severely lacerated by shotgun pellets. So not fatal.
Okay.
It tells you what happened too.
Pellets actually wouldn't be that big of a deal. I would probably just wrap the injured extremity and I would just take them in. I probably wouldn't do anything special. I would monitor it and make sure that it wasn't bleeding profusely. But with something minor like that, basically what they're going to do is I'm going to take them into the ER. They're going to clean the wound and they're going to extract the pellets. And he'll just walk out of the ER probably, unless he's got broken fingers and stuff like that. Then he might have to have surgery.
Wow. I'm looking at more of these. Some of these are not good.
Yeah, I know.
So speaking of pellets, the next one on the list is multiple pellet injuries to the aorta, right lung, and internal stomach.
Yeah, that one would be probably not. I mean, it depends on where these pellets are, but I would be very concerned about bleeding. I would actually probably call a trauma alert. And when I call a trauma alert, usually they put a helicopter en route to either the hospital or to the scene, depending on what it is. Because that would be an injury that an aorta is something that I can't fix. So I would definitely have to get them to where they would have to go. And I would also be concerned about their breathing, because any open wound to the chest, like you can't obviously put a tourniquet on it. And if you cover it with a dressing, you can cause something called a pneumothorax or a hemothorax, which is a collapsed lung. So you have to put occlusive dressings over that so that way air can escape. So injuries like that are hard to manage by a layperson, because for one, somebody got shot in the chest, and for two, there are organs inside that you have to worry about, and you have to worry about like internal bleeding, and I can't fix internal bleeding.
Yeah. No, man, there's actually more gunshot wounds than I ever considered looking at all of these for 2019. And a lot of people shooting their feet. It's a lot of like toes and fingers. But there's a couple chest and leg, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, and that probably happened at the truck, actually. Usually a lot of those injuries happen at trucks because people are loading and unloading their guns and they go off. Kind of rare, like rarely have I seen any that have actually happened out in the field, but I'm sure that happens probably turkey hunting more than anything because people don't really always look and see where they're shooting.
Yeah, a lot of these are like bird hunting and pheasant hunting. Laid shotgun down in grass, was 10 yards away, it fell over, discharged, shot in chest. Like I don't know. Anybody can go here. I had to pull it up on the screen for a second there, but that's actually an interesting exercise. I'm sure we should have spent more time doing that. Like, hey Sarah, reverse engineer this one. What would you do? How would you solve this problem? Like, it's kind of fun because in there, like you're like critically thinking on the spot. Well, I would do this, this, and this, and I would call these people in. Like that was kind of cool. Got to put you into action there a little bit.
Yeah, I know, right?
You like instantly responded to you like, no, this is what I do. And this is probably what happened, and you were right. It's crazy. Oh man. Well, I don't know,
Greg,
Greg.
you have to remember that this is my job.
Yeah.
And I'm actually certified in other things. Like I have my paramedic certification, but I have to get other certifications. I have to have ACLS, which is my advanced cardiac life support. So that's what I would do when people are like coding, which is a CPR situation, or a really fast heart rate or really slow heart rate. And then I have PALS, which is my pediatric advanced life support, which would be the children's version of the ACLS. I have my neonatal resuscitation license as well, my NRP, which is for little babies. And then I have AMLS, which is medical life-saving things, which would be like your hypoglycemias, your diabetes, your allergic reactions, just like your medical emergencies. And then I also have PHTLS, which is pre-hospital trauma, which I have my book out actually looking at the wilderness trauma care for tonight's episode, just because I'm like, I don't know, maybe he'll ask me a question and I won't know it, and I have my book right handy.
Good for you. I wasn't going to try to stump you or anything like that. I don't know, but like I am a klutz. My dad's a klutz. It's like it runs in the family. I'm surprised I haven't been more severely injured. One of the weirdest injuries I got hunting was for my back when you had back tags. The pin on those things was huge, and I like for whatever reason I just couldn't
Did you pin yourself in the back?
No, dude, I pinned myself in between your index finger and your thumb, that like meaty area. Punctured right into there. It was the weirdest, terrible feeling. I was like, "Whoa, what is this? Why did that happen to me?" Like poked out and got me. I was like, "Shit," And then I couldn't like grip. So then the next morning, I'm trying to climb the tree. So I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't grip." It was stupid. Like I'm an idiot. That's how I injure myself. By the way, I went camping this weekend. Right, we stopped home for the storm to bypass. We were pretty close, and I got like a 2-inch splinter in my heel from my own kitchen floor. That's how I got injured, not from the camping. It was terrible. I need new floors. If anybody out there knows somebody, please.
You come home and you get a splinter in your foot, but somehow you manage to not axe your finger off using the axe to chop firewood.
Yep. No, I can swing an axe, that's for sure, but I cannot apparently walk around my own effing kitchen. It's like the third time this has happened too. Oh boy! And then
if I recall, when I took you salmon fishing, you did try catching yourself with the net too. So
I don't remember that. I must have blacked that out. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Oh, we get a lot of fish hooks too.
Oh God! Yeah.
Like right now it's fishing season, so we get a lot of fish hooks.
And with COVID going on, let me tell you, there's a record amount of fishermen out there. People are looking for other things to do. They're picking up fishing. You can't go anywhere and buy hardly any fishing gear. It's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the bigger box stores around here, Walmart's, Fleet Farms, Farm and Fleets, fishing gear is just wiped. So
yeah, and I'm hospital based next to the Mississippi River, so we get all the boating accidents and stuff like river things that come into. So I mean,
God, people are just walking accidents everywhere. It's like something is happening right now. Right now, someone is about to injure themselves on a 4-wheeler in the woods somewhere on the water. It's gonna happen. It's crazy.
Yep.
Are you scared of everything then? Like, are you like, overtly alarmist about safety because you've seen so many terrible things and you're like, ooh, this is gonna end bad. I know what's gonna happen here.
Yes and no. I guess like when I see things happening, I'm always like, oh, this is gonna suck. But then I see like the hold my beer stuff, and I laugh because I'm like, well, this is obviously going to end badly. And I mean, I don't try to be that mom. Like my kids they go out and they do things and they ride their bikes, and I'm like, whatever. Like if you get hurt, I mean, you're a kid, but I'll probably get it for like child abuse or something because I said that. But I'm not
no, it's fine.
You can't do anything because I'm scared of you getting hurt. No, I mean, you have to go out and play and get dirty and scrape up your ankles or your knees and ankles and shit. And it's just like, I mean, you're a kid.
That's how you learn. Yep.
But
Kids are going to do what they want to do.
Yeah. And I'm also like, when I go to their ball games and stuff, if somebody has an injury, I'm usually the first one that they call, like, hey, will you come look at this? What do you think? Do you think it's serious? Do you think it's not serious? Usually it's okay. I just ice it
Rub
and
some
stuff
dirt
like
on
that.
it.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Rub some dirt on it and go back out there.
Oh man. Well, Sarah, we planted the seed like we do with every guest at the beginning, and hopefully you thought about it a little bit. But why don't you share with us your most memorable hunt to date?
Oh, my most memorable hunt to date. I'm probably going to have to say it was my first buck that I actually shot and recovered. It would have been with my dad. We were out early muzzleloader season, and we'd been trying to get a buck the previous year, and he was just gung ho on getting me any deer because I don't run trail cams. He doesn't run trail cams. We just hunt. And so we get out there and we're waiting, and it's opening night of early muzzleloader. So it's middle of October, and it's hot, and we're sitting second row of the cornfield watching over some hay, and the deer start coming out. There's 3-4 does and a nice big tall 10 white rack buck, and he's waiting on me. It's probably 100 yards out. He's waiting on me to move the gun to shoot it. Well, the gun is on a tripod, and the tripod is in a corn root, so I can't move this gun at all. And I'm trying to get it out. I'm trying not to move because he's looking in our general direction. Nobody's alarmed, and like the does are coming our way. They're like 50 yards out. So I'm trying to get this gun out without making a big commotion. Long story short, the deer all go over the hill, and he is out of my life forever. So since all the deer are gone, I do work my gun, the thing out of the corn root, and I get it positioned, and the sun's going down. It's getting, later in the day. It's almost time to quit. And just on the other side of this corn, we see this deer, and he puts his head down, and it's a buck. And he's literally 5 feet away from me. And he walks out, and he gets to where like we're sitting, and he kind of looks, and then he kind of angles out at like a 45-degree angle, and he's about 10 yards away, and I shoot him. The smoke clears. Dad's like, he might have been too close. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I hit him or not. Well, we go, and we start walking out, and we find him piled up 100 yards away. He's dead. And he was my nice, I'd say probably 130s, but he's a nice 8-point, and he's on my wall right now. So I was pretty happy with that. He was my first buck. He was a big deer. He probably weighed 220, 230. He was huge.
Wow.
Cool.
That is a big animal. How was the drag? Did you have to go far?
We actually used the 4-wheeler, and then getting him in the back of the truck was another thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure, like now working in EMS, like I wasn't in EMS at that time, but now working in EMS, that's just a normal, person is, rolling them around and getting them up and stuff like that. But like getting this deer into the back of a truck was pure hell.
That's crazy. Good for you. That's awesome. 5-10 yards away with the gun. So did you just like get brown in the sight and we're like, shit, this is it, I gotta shoot?
Yep.
Yeah, hard to know. Hard to know when they're that close. You're like,
he was so close, and it was I could barely move, and he was just like right there.
Yep. Yeah, at that point you can just okay, point and shoot. We're gonna get him. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And the gun was, it was muzzleloader. It was sighted out to like 150 yards. So, it was a good shot. It was double lunged him. He was dead on his feet. So.
Rock on. See, I told you an hour go by quick. We're like pretty much there. So we'll get some shameless plugs and like refresh everybody's memory on how they find you, how they get in touch, maybe some of the goals you have for your podcast and what you're looking to do, and where to guide people to.
Actually, with my podcast, I definitely want to get more awareness to mental health and get rid of the stigma. I know a lot of people focus on like the military and cops for like mental health stuff, but firefighters and dispatchers and EMS people, they also struggle with like PTSD. We may not be in as dangerous situations, but we have to see a lot of things that we can't forget. So, I'm trying to end the stigma that it's okay to not be okay, to have people just talk about it and to try to save more lives. 12 people in EMS actually commit suicide every day. And I know that's not as many as like military people, but that's still 12 people that are helping other people that are gone. So my main goal for my podcast is to draw awareness and to get all sorts of different people, like anybody, not just EMS, but anybody on there that has, PTSD, anxiety, depression, all things that can make, living a normal life difficult. Just getting that out there that people, there's an outlet, and that's the outdoors. And it doesn't have to be hunting or fishing. It could be hiking, camping, anything, getting outdoors and playing golf, like anything to get activity outside is good for your mental health.
Yeah, nature is one hell of a healer. In any capacity, you can be out in it and enjoying it. You'll find subtleties that can kind of put your mind at ease.
And that's actually what I use for, clearing my brain. I see a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that I wish I could unsee. And getting outside, even for a little while, helps just ease all the pain in my brain.
It's a special thing. I find that if I don't spend time outdoors for an extended period of time, I start to just get pretty tightly wound and turn into a bit of an asshole. And it's like almost like when you realize you're crabby because you're hungry, and you're like, oh man, I haven't eaten anything today. I should probably, like the Snickers commercials. It's like that, but obviously worse. And I'm like, I need to spend a day outside. I have to. I don't smoke, I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke weed. I don't get drunk. I have a drink on this podcast on Tuesdays, but there's not a lot of release, and nature is that. And whether that's for mental health or mental clarity or sanity or whatever, it's a powerful healer. But I think, we owe a thank you to our EMS folks for doing what they do, and thank you for what you do. Obviously, you're well-trained and experienced. You know what you're talking about, but I imagine you've seen some things that you can't unsee, and I appreciate you raising awareness around that stuff. You just telling me that raised awareness. I didn't realize that at all. I didn't even consider it,
And a lot of what EMS providers they don't want to have people like ask them what's the worst thing you've seen, because when somebody asks me that, the first thing that comes to my mind is every bad thing that I've ever seen. It starts playing like a movie in my brain, and I don't want to talk about it. Like, I've seen some crap, like I've seen a lot of crap, but I want to talk about like, hey, we got this person back and their family was just so excited. Or, this kid, like you see these officers, the kid's choking, and then all of a sudden the kid's crying and everybody's like happy. Like, I like to see that stuff, and I like to talk about that stuff. I don't like to talk about the stuff that has
went
bad
sideways,
outcomes,
right?
Because that just puts me in a position where I have to try to remain stoic while I'm standing someplace, and it's so hard because I have to think of all the things that have happened.
It's interesting that people are conditioned to ask that question. I don't know why that is, and they obviously don't know. It's kind of weird.
And it happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the time. If people ask me what I do, I tell them I'm a paramedic. Oh, I bet you've seen some crap. And then it's like, yeah. Like, that's part of it,
That's wild.
And then, like, the whole coronavirus, like, I didn't get my license and expect to be involved in a pandemic. And at first I was terrified that I was going to bring this home to my family. Like, my life, I'm not worried about like me dying, because I've made peace, because in the back of the ambulance, I have a better chance of dying in an accident than dying of the coronavirus, honestly. So, like, I've made my peace, and it's sad to say, but I've already wrote my funeral in case something like that happens, just so that way my family doesn't have to worry about it, you know. Because most people that are involved in an accident do pass away in the back, because I'm not restrained. I mean, I know I should be, but if I'm doing work on my patient, I'm not restrained usually, which is on me, but I'm also trying to help this person. And, you know, it is what it is. Like, I've made my peace, but like when this first started and everybody was freaking out about it, I was concerned, and I was actually going to move out of my house and stay in a room away from my family, so I didn't bring it home. And then the more we learned about it, the more I'm like, well, I'm just going to take a bunch of extra precautions that I don't usually take, and I'm just going to stay, like, do my things at work, shower at work, and then come home and wash my clothes right away. And nobody comes into contact with anything, so I don't have to worry about it. They're probably more likely to get it from going out and about, you know, doing their thing than they are from me. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I continue to try to educate myself more and more about it as it evolves. Hard to find the truth and all that, but that's a whole nother podcast topic. I'm sure not one that I think I could navigate well. But I thank you for everything you do, Sarah. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being a listener and a caller and a supporter. And, you know, we're thrilled to have you. Thanks so much for being here today.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. I mean, it was definitely okay.
Yeah, see, we told you it's all mediocre here. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. We're going to end the live broadcast, and stay tuned. We'll get this thing produced this evening.